Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, cannot believe that it's already the end of 2024. And so now I'm going to be doing my best of games series. This is the top 10 family games of the year, so here we go.
Number 10.
The next one is River Valley Glassworks. This is from All Play, and this game is similar to a popular game called Azul. It's just like a lesser mean version of Azul, where it's very cutesy. It's very the components are great. You're going down these rivers. You're placing essentially acrylic pieces into the river of certain shape, and then grabbing certain pieces of glass or acrylic that are next to it. So there's an abstract aspect of where you place and what you place determines what you can take. And that's a puzzle that's evolving over the game. But in the end, you're trying to do set collection. You're collecting different shapes, you're collecting different colors. Sometimes you're going to be trying to have a big line of colors, different colors. Sometimes you're going to be wanting the colors to go all the way up in the columns. The scoring itself is different in that, right? Where sometimes you're trying to focus on having high columns. Sometimes you want to have long rows because they score in different ways. So depending on what comes out, you're going to be scoring in different ways. The game, the pieces themselves have different rarity depending on the colors, so that also gives the game a lot of different ways to think. But if you like sort of a Azulish abstract style games with some set collection that's a lot less mean than the hate drafting that can be prevalent in Azul, and you want a cutesy game that can be played a lot faster, this is a 20 to 30 minute game. Check out my full review of River Valley Glassworks.
Number 9.
This next one is Comic Hunters. This is a set collection game based on Marvel Comics where you're going to be collecting different comics. And you're going to be doing different things, whether it's you're collecting different varieties of characters, or you're trying to have the most of certain characters. All different ways to do set collection in this game. But the way that you do it is through little mini games. Sometimes you're doing an auction, sometimes you're doing drafting, sometimes you're doing a sort of an abstract way of taking cards from a grid. All these different ways, but the cards aren't just comics. And by the way, the art in this game has all these classical comics, which is really cool, but the cards are also currency. So not only are you trying to keep cards to create sets to score points, but you also have to figure out which ones to use for currency to gain other things. So you got to give up things to get other things. It's pretty streamlined. It's an interesting game. I think I've done a full review of this, so you can go and see how the game plays and what it's really like. But if you like set collection, if you like different auctions and different ways of drafting cards and stuff like that, and you like an economy in a game, check out Comic Hunters.
Number 8.
This next one is called Flower Fields. This is as if Patchwork, the game Patchwork, and the game King Domino had a baby. In this game, you're going to be gathering polyominoes in a circle, almost like in Patchwork. Getting these and putting them on a square grid, almost like in Patchwork. You're trying to create contiguous groups of the same color, like King Domino, and you're trying to score them like King Domino by getting scoring symbols in these large groups. However, the big twist here is that you're deciding which of these groups and how these groups get the scoring symbols. They're bees in this case. Bees is a currency in the game that you're using to get better or different polyominoes, but you're also using them to denote that you're going to be using this as a multiplier to score things. So even though it uses a lot of mechanisms from Patchwork and King Domino, when you put those two things together, it doesn't feel like either of those games, but feels familiar because of those two games. I've done a full review of this, so if you've liked either of those two games, you're probably going to like this one, Flower Fields.
Number 7.
Is a game about dogs called Zoomies. This is from Fireside Games. And in this game, you're basically playing tiles that look like dominoes, kind of like King Domino a little bit. You're playing these tiles to a grid that everyone is playing to. It's a shared grid, but you're trying to link together certain breeds of dogs. There's only 5 of them in the game. And then you're placing a token on that tile. And sometimes you're placing the leader token. You're trying to have the most dogs of that breed in that specific pack. Or maybe you have a bone token. You're trying to get 2 points for each bone from that breed in that pack. Maybe you're making a friends token, making it so that you're getting 2 points for every other breed next to this other dog that's the same type. Like you might put one in between a Chihuahua and a Greyhound, and every time that Chihuahua is next to a Greyhound, you're going to be getting more points in that pack. And maybe there's a Zoomies where you get to actually play a token of a Zoomies, take another turn, and then you're going to do some set collection of Zoomies at the end of the game. It's really cool. Because it's like an abstract domino placement game, kind of like King Domino, but instead of building your own thing, you're building a shared grid with all the other players. It's light enough that like even children can play this game, but there is some strategy as to what you're playing, where you're playing, trying to get things out of things, seeing opportunities that are made by other people's plays, and then piggybacking on that. And there's a limit as to many of those tokens you can only have one in each pack, and so it's very interesting. It's fun, it's easy, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to play. It's light, it's cartoony looking, it's family friendly, but at the same time it does offer some unique strategies as well, and that's Zoomies.
Number 6.
The next one is Festival. Now this one is all about fireworks. It's got a sort of a cool dark look to it. In this game, you are creating a fireworks display in front of you, in I believe like a 4x4 grid. Now on your turn, you're taking the top firework either from the pile in between you and your player to the left, or you and the player to your right. You're sharing these piles between them. And you're gonna take the top firework off that and place it anywhere on your grid. Sometimes you're placing it right on your grid, sometimes you're placing it on top of other fireworks. And what you're trying to do is match patterns up with goal cards. On your turn, you're either taking a firework and placing it, or you're taking a goal card that other people could possibly take. So you're trying to set yourself up in sort of an abstract pattern matching on your board, but you're also trying to match the goal cards that you're getting. And so you're rushing. It's very competitive because sometimes you're getting a goal that someone else wants. Sometimes you're taking the firework that somebody else next to you really wanted, and it's messing with them that way. There's also some other goals, some open goals that you're going for as well during the game, but it's really good. It kind of reminds me of a game like Reef, for example, from Emerson Matsuuchi, where you're kind of building up patterns, sometimes three-dimensional patterns to match goal cards. But the game does also feel very different because of the way that you take the actions, and everything else in the game does feel different. But that part, the pattern matching, is really cool. It's a good sort of family level game. It takes 30 minutes to play, pretty easy to teach, pretty quick and easy to set up as well, but it does offer a lot of good tactical decisions, a lot of player interaction, messing with them, taking things they want, trying to race towards things, and it's a good little family game, and that is Festival. It's published by Scorpion Masqué.
Number 5.
This next one is a three-dimensional set collection game called Noon Attack. This is from Kane Klenko, the designer. In this game, you're doing some set collection and area control. You're going to be drafting some cards. These cards are going to be different types that you're set collecting, but they're also going to give you abilities or scoring or something else on the cards. But they're also going to tell you where you can actually build your three-dimensional shape of pyramids out, well, they're blocks, but you're building one big ice pyramid onto the board. And as the game goes on, you're going to be building this huge pyramid between other players. Everyone's building into the same pyramid. In this pyramid, you're going to be placing to get area control points of what's below it, what's above it. Maybe you want to be on the edges, you want to be on the top. All different ways of doing area control, but it's also you're trying to be playing the cards to get there, but those cards are also going to be getting you points and different abilities and different things as well. So if you like set collection, you like area control, you like three-dimensional table presence, Noon Attack is definitely a unique game that went over really well. I've done a full review of this. You can check that out. Noon Attack, the Ice Temple.
Number 4.
This next one was one of the 3 games nominated for the Spiel des Jahres Game of the Year award in Germany, Captain Flip. This is a fun game. It's light, it's kind of lucky, but it's fun. In this game, you're essentially taking a tile, drawing it from a bag, and putting it on your board, doing its ability, or if you want to press your luck, you can flip that tile over, then you have to keep that and put it somewhere on your board. These tiles do all sorts of different things. Some of them have you score things. Some of them give you a map that gets you a point every time that the thing comes around if you have a map. Sometimes you're swapping things. Sometimes you're trying to be on the top of a row. Sometimes you're trying not to be in the same row as something else. You're clumping different things together. You're doing this sort of set collection in an abstract way. They have all these different abilities and different ways of scoring. So the interesting thing is you're pulling this thing out. You're like, oh, I can use this now. Or, oh, this is okay, but what's on the other side? Ah, darn it, I didn't want that. And then there's some ways where you get really big points for some cannonball gunners, but you don't want 3 of them because that's really bad, right? So It's really fun. Watching players draw, sure it's lucky, pressing your luck, possibly flipping it over. It's fun. There's different boards that you can have that gives the game a little bit different feel. It's good family fun. Captain Flip is a great one.
Number 3.
This next one is also similar to Azul. Actually, this one's done by the same designer, Michael Kiesling. It's called Intarsia. In this game, you're building wood parquet floors in a cafe, I believe in France. Forgive me if I'm wrong. And so you have these beautiful wooden pieces. And what you're doing is you're playing cards of certain colors to place those colored pieces as pieces of wood on your own board. What you're trying to do is create certain patterns on your board to then score those in a tile of scoring grid tiles. The thing is, you're rushing to score certain things that other players are not, because if you get there first, you're going to get more points, and they run out. So if you're the third person to get a certain pattern, tough, you're not getting that, right? But you're playing cards in order to place a certain color, but then you're able to draw back a certain amount of cards from a pool to then set up your next cells. So you're constantly comboing together your turn with what you think your next turn is going to be, which is very interesting. And also, the game doesn't have a lot of interaction. It probably has less interaction in Azul, but it's very head-down thinky, and you are interacting a little bit by rushing for the tiles. But if you like the abstract nature of Azul, you want it to be less mean, maybe a little bit more Euro-y, solo-ish, where you're head down, but maybe you have the interaction of rushing of goals. Check this one out. It's beautiful. I've done a full review of this. You want to check it out. Intarsia.
Number 2.
This next one is Aqua Biodiversity in the Oceans. This was a game that came out really early in 2024. I thought it was going to be my family game of the year the entire year until just right before. This is a very interesting game. It has Vincent Dutrait art, which is beautiful. In this game, you're going to be getting tiles. You're going to be drafting tiles from a pool, and you're going to be placing these tiles in your own reef. You're going to be building up different things. You're going to be building up contiguous areas of the same type of animal, which is the same colors. Sometimes you're going to be building up, if you get a certain pattern, you'll be able to eat those animals with a larger one that goes on top of it that gives you big points. Sometimes you're building up less than 3 in a row to build up reefs that will be able to score of everything around them. So it's like an abstract game where you're building your own tableau, doing set collection, but also building it 3 levels up. There's also this interesting way of how the game scores can be different every game. Because there's a standard way to score, but then there's these tiles that you can use that every game you play, you might be scoring 5 different things that you were than last game. So it's going to give you different strategies each game as well. If you like sort of abstract games with set collection, it's also building a 3-dimensional thing, I think you're going to like Aqua Biodiversity in the Oceans. Check out my full review to see how this one works.
Number 1.
Is a game that came out later in this year that I've absolutely fallen in love with. It's called Tower Up. This game is kind of like a cross between the old classic game Manhattan, which was like an area control building towers up in levels. It's sort of a Ticket to Ride where you're taking cards or playing cards. So in this game, you're building towers. You're either taking a card and getting some blocks most of the time, or you're placing those blocks. When you're placing blocks, you're building towers. But you're building towers in a way that's very interesting, where you build a tower and you have to also build towers that are adjacent to where you're building. So you have to make sure you have the right blocks to go in certain areas. But you're trying to do this for different goals. If you get your piece as a roof on top, you're going to be able to score for how many roofs you have on top at the end. But other players might overbuild on top of you, right? So you want to find the right time to do it, not too early in the game. There's all different ways of scoring that will change each game. You're trying to maybe build the highest or the most highest ones, or maybe you're trying to build in the 5 different neighborhoods, or maybe you're trying to build next to the parks. All different ways to score. The mechanisms in this game are so easy. Draft a card and get blocks or place blocks. But with that being said, there's a lot of depth of being able to say where you're going to build, how you're going to build, when are you going to build, and actually forcing yourself to be able to sort of back yourself into a corner on purpose to make sure that you end up with some of the goals at the end. It's a very good game. It's amazing. I've done a full review of this game, so check out my channel for it. If you like sort of building 3-dimensional towers, having it look cool, having a lot of strategy and a lot of depth to a game that mechanically is pretty simple, and having lots of replayability. That's why this game is amazing, and that is Tower Up. Well, I hope I helped you, showed you some light strategy family games that you haven't heard of, or if you have, maybe you've learned some more about them. Again, I've reviewed most of those games. Check those out on my channel, to the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships to board games, and helping you on the next one you love. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and their 4.5 Kickstarter introduced the new Galactic Minecraft and Watson Game Toppers with interchangeable rail inlays, as well as new game mats, miniature gaming terrain packs, leg kit options, dining covers, accessories, and amazing package deals. The campaign recently ended, but it's not too late to pledge late at GameToppersLLC.com.